Dear students, welcome to our science episodes. Today we are going to discuss fossils. Fossils. In Latin word, fossil means something buried under the ground. So if you find anything buried under the ground, is it fossil? Of course not. But this is the origin of the word fossil. Fossils are known to be traces or remains of old living organisms that are preserved in sedimentary rocks. So there are certain conditions here to say that this thing that you find inside the ground or buried under the ground is called a fossil. It has to be traces and or remains of an old living organism and preserved in sedimentary rocks. Sometimes scientists found remains of the dead organisms, bones, teeth. And sometimes they found trace or evidences of the dead organism activities, like the footprints. We said that the organism should be preserved in sedimentary rocks. Actually, sedimentary rocks often start as sediments, small pebbles or gravels or sand, carried in rivers and deposited on Earth's surface. By time, they lose water and become solidified and cemented to form layers of rocks. Fossils are found in sedimentary rocks. In these kind of sedimentary rocks, look how they are formed in layers. So what types of fossils are we going to study? Fossil of a complete body. It's when the organism died and buried fast in a medium that preserved it from decomposition. Maybe this medium is snow with a very low temperature or amber. So when the organism died, the whole body will be buried under this substance, either snow or amber. It keeps the whole shape and all the details of the body. Look to this. This is called mammoth fossil. Yes, it looks similar to a big elephant. It lived many thousands or millions of years ago. In Siberia, 25,000 years ago, a snow avalanche occurred. And this mammoth animal died and was buried immediately in the snow as if it is freezed. Its whole shape was completely preserved, and all hair, flesh, and food in its bowels were preserved. This is another example of the whole body fossil, or a fossil of a complete body. Can you see these insects inside the amber? During old geologic periods, pine trees secreted resinous matter. This matter covered insects and solidified and changed to amber, this yellow substance. They preserve the bodies of the organisms from decaying, so you can find the whole body of an insect or a scorpion inside this piece of amber. So these are the two examples for a complete body fossil. What about the second type? It's called mold. Making model of a mold activity. How can we make a mold activity or a model of a mold? We will get plaster of Paris. You know, it's a white powder that is used to make casts for fractured limbs, for fractured legs or fractured arms. Water, food oil, plastic container, metal mold, rod for steering, and a brush. If you use the brush to paint the internal surface of the mold with oil, this is the mold. This is a metal mold. You will brush the internal surface with oil. And then you will put the plaster of Paris, this white powder, with water and continue stirring for a suitable time to make a suitable mixture. And then pour this mixture into the mold and wait until the plaster of Paris solidifies. Then separate the hard mixture from the mold. The hardened plaster of Paris forms a solid mold of the metal mold. This is the metal mold, and this is the solid mold that we did out of this metal mold. So when a snail or a clam died, they fell on the sea floor and they are buried in sediments. These sediments will fill the shell cavities and solidify by time. The shell decomposed completely, leaving a rock mold carrying the internal details of the snail. We have ammonite mold, trilobite mold, and nemolite mold. These are the examples of molds fossils. The third type is called cast. It's an impression, just an impression of the original organism outer shape. We call this impression a cast. This impression represents the outer shape only. When an organism or a leaf fell down on a soft clay soil and decomposed, it leaves an impression with details of its outer shape. This is called cast fossil. This is a shell cast. The shell is not present. This is just the external shape of the shell, making an impression in the rocks. Again, this is a fish cast. Can you see the fish? Is the fish itself present? No. The fish is not present anymore. This is just an impression. The outer external shape of the fish carved in the rocks. Ferns cast, a type of plant where the leaves will decompose, leaving only its outer shape carved on the rocks. Could we make a model of a cast activity? Yes, it's very simple. We have to get colored clay or Play-Doh, a shell of a clam, or any 3D object you have. Then press on the clay by your hand to make a plain surface. And then put the outer side of the shell on the surface of the clay and press it gently. Then remove the shell from the clay. If you will remove the shell of the clay from the clay, you will find an impression by its outer shape in the clay. A replica of the outer original shell shape is formed, and it's known as cast. So, if the dead body left an impression or a shape, original shape of the outer surface on the clay or on the soil or on the rocks, this is called a cast. But if the walking animal, will leave footprints on the soil or on the rocks, this is called a trace. Evidence of activity. But if the outer shape is just imprinted on the rocks, this is called cast. As you can see here, this is a fish cast, this is a dinosaur footprint, this is worm's tunnel, an evidence, a trace of its activity, because the organism left this while it was living, not after death. The fourth type that we are going to discuss is called petrified fossils. And it's a type of fossil where minerals replace the original organic material after being buried in sedimentary rocks without changing its shape. So, let's imagine together. There is an original organism buried inside rocks. Then the original organism will decompose and decay. It will disappear. Minerals will replace the original material. This is called petrified fossils. Like petrified dinosaur tooth, petrified dinosaur's egg, and petrified wood. Is this real tooth? No, minerals. Are these real eggs? No, minerals. Again, these are petrified minerals. What is the difference between permineralization and petrification? Well, petrification is when the minerals will replace all the organic material of the organism and the whole organism will turn to be stone. This is called a petrified fossil. But permineralization, it's when minerals will delve or will fill the spaces and the pores inside the organism. Okay, this will be an organism with some minerals in the pores and in the space. This is permineralization. But if the minerals will replace the whole body of the organism and the organism became a stone, this is called a petrified fossil. Petrified wood. As we said, petrified wood was formed by replacing the original wood material by silica, with silica. So silica is the mineral that will replace the original wood. So why do you think petrified wood looks like rocks, but they are fossils? Yes, because they give us details about once living old plants. This is the Petrified Forest Protectorate in Egypt. You will find some examples for petrified wood for million and million of years ago. Now let's discuss together conditions required for fossils formation. Remember that we agreed that not all organisms buried inside the ground are called fossils. For fossils to be formed, there are some conditions required. Presence of the solid skeleton for the organism, like bones, shells, tooth. And the organism was buried fast in a medium which protected it from decomposition. Presence of suitable media where minerals took place of the original organic parts. Now it's time for questions. Fill in the blanks. Fossils are known to be traces and or remains of old living organisms that are preserved in which type of rocks? Yes, sedimentary rocks. What and what are examples of complete body fossils? Could you remember the whole body fossil with preserved details? Yes, mammoth and amber fossil. Petrified wood are formed due to replacement of wood with, what is the name of the mineral? Yes, silica. Now, try please to write the scientific name. An impression of the original organism outer shape. A cast. A type of fossil where minerals replace the original organic material of organism. Petrified fossil. Dear students, thank you for watching. See you later in other science episodes.